Hi, I'm Remington. Welcome. So today we're going to be talking about The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. This is the second time that I've talked about this book because I read it about a year ago, I want to say. And I didn't really like it the first time that I read it. And there were a lot of different reasons for that. The main one being the main point of the story that people often put on it is that it's a story about sticking to your guns. And even when things aren't going your way, just stick to what you know, stick to what you believe in, and things will turn out all right for you. Or even if they don't turn out all right for you, at least you stayed true to yourself in the end. And I thought that was a stupid take to to come from the book, and because of that, I was very harsh when I talked about it, and I was pretty negative about it overall. Which I think is a mistake. After rereading it, my thoughts on the message of it haven't really changed. I still think that if you're saying that this is a story about sticking to your guns and overcoming adversity, or even if you don't overcome adversity, at least you stay true to yourself. If that's what you're saying the story is, like, go ahead. I'm not telling you not to. Books belong to their readers. Who am I to tell you not to think that? But I don't think that it doesn't make sense to me that you would take that from this story, is what I'm trying to say. And mainly, the reason for that is because the old man, when he's fishing, it's not a thing that matters in the grand scheme of things. And he's putting himself in harm's way and making people he cares about search for him, and even getting the Coast Guard involved just because he wants to catch this fish. I think that it was incredibly irresponsible of him to try and do that. And as soon as he lost the lights of Havana, I think he should have cut the line and turned back, because he was putting himself in harm's way. And I think that that's a bad thing to do. Of course, if you want to sub in, the fish for some kind of moral issue that is important to you, and you're sticking to that, then sure, that works just fine. And if that's your reason for why you think that that's what the story's about, you should just sub in, X, Y, and Z. It's a metaphor, all that. That's fine. But I think it makes more sense, or at least more sense to me, as a story of when you should learn to not be stubborn. Because the way that Santiago talks about his desire to fish, it's almost like he has to do it. At one point he says something along the lines of, it's what a man must do. Like there's some kind of calling for him to be a fisherman, and it's not something that he does just because he likes it. It's something that he has to do. We also see from the arm wrestling match that he's incredibly stubborn. He went all night for that match, and he ended up winning it because he was so stubborn. Also, obviously, because he was a pretty strong guy, but still. He also mentions at one point about how much care he puts into keeping the lines from crossing, and that's not something that other fishermen do, or at least that's what he says. But it doesn't really seem to be helping him, because other fishermen are having success and he isn't. I think that the story makes a lot more sense if you view it in the light of, there are some things that you feel like you have to do, but if you weigh out the consequences of what you're doing, it's not worth it. Like, it's not, even if he did end up catching the fish, it wouldn't be worth it for him to be out all that time having everybody worried about him and possibly dying. At one point he even mentions how if the fish goes down, he'll go down with it, because he doesn't really seem to care about his life all that much. And that's bad, I think. Here we have this lonely old man out in the middle of the sea all by himself, and all he cares about is catching this fish, even though there's people on land that care about him and are actively searching for him. Oh, my PC battery's running low. However, I do think that me labeling it a bad book because of that was really dumb. Just because I disagree with the popular interpretation that people put on it, that made it a bad book. That was stupid of me, and I regret doing that. I don't think it's an amazing book by any means. It's a little on the boring side, even for being as short as it is. But there is a lot here, and there's a lot to think about, and I liked some of the the offshoots of like when he was talking about the differences in the fish and the birds and how they survive versus how humans survive, and the struggle that they have, how they have to work so much harder to live than we do, and how that's changed us as human beings. We're not the same as, you know, our ancestors were. We have so many more creature comforts than we did back then, and that's for the better in some ways, and definitely a detriment in other ways. And thinking about that while I was reading the book was a pretty cool thing to ponder, and I wouldn't really think about that, you know, without a book like this. Books are more than just what the story is about. They're also gateways to different thoughts that you wouldn't normally think. So yeah, I was definitely too harsh on this book the first time I read it. Very glad that I came back to it. And I'll probably end up doing that with a couple other books, like 1984. My 1984 video, although from what I remember, I don't disagree with anything I said, it does still get a couple views every now and then, and I feel like I should probably revisit it. I don't think that, like with this book, I don't think my main thoughts on the book are going to change all that much, but I think it would be good to revisit it with a broader approach, like I did with this book, you know. And I say this in the video about 1984, but it's not meant to be just a nice story that you sit down and read, you know. It's got broader connotations than that, which I was aware of, but I excluded from my review of it, which is probably a little bit of a mistake. Another reason why I'm glad that I reread it is because it did make me think about, what am I saying about books? What am I taking away from them? Am I just, you know, listening to what other people are saying and agreeing or disagreeing with that and ending it there? You know, am I actually taking the time to think through the book, and what is it wanting me to feel? What is it saying? You know, just engaging with it on a more critical level, not just such a surface level, taking the first thoughts that come with me and running with it. I'm not delving in as deeply as I should with some of the books, I think. And not to say that you need to do that with every book, but like, some have a lot to offer, so I should be doing that a bit more. Thank you for watching my ramble on The Old Man and the Sea. Appreciate you sticking around if you're still here. If you liked the video, feel free to leave a like. If you want to subscribe, that'd be cool, but no pressure. Anyway, I will see you hopefully within 2 weeks. Peace.